Embers. Welcome to another Fireside chat. So last week we discussed the plating of the temperature blanket. And I'll probably have another video on that coming up. Maybe, I think. But this week I wanted to discuss the mandala blanket that I'm working on. Again, I had just this was a spontaneous project. When I had first picked this yarn up, I'd only picked up 2, and I was going to make a prayer shawl out of it. Now, for those of you who know me, I'm not religious. That's not the point here. The point is this shawl was supposed to be very light. It was like 3 big triangles that would be like lined up. So there was like one with the tip facing down, one with the tip facing up, and another one with the tip facing down, kind of like that. And then you'd wrap it around your shoulders. Well, I had discovered that the way you were supposed to do it, it was supposed to take 2 of these with 32 rows per triangle. And it wasn't going to work. I have abnormally broad shoulders, so that blanket was only like probably would have been like 2.5, 3 feet wide. So it wouldn't wrap around my shoulders comfortably. It would be short. It would just look kind of stupid, kind of like an oversized scarf. So what I decided to do was at this point I had 2 of the 3 triangles done. So I took it all apart and started making, just taking the yarn and making big triangles. And I got 2 of them together, and I'm like, well, that's a fairly nice size. And I had ordered, or I picked up another one, so I had another ball to do another big triangle. And what had happened is I'm like putting this together, and I'm like, oh, that's nice. And it's light and it's colorful. And I thought, why don't I make another big triangle and put them together? And that made a really nice shawl. And then I saw it, I looked at Joanne, and these were on sale. They were like half off. And I'm like, ding, using the old Malanka Palinka. And I ordered 4 more balls, or skeins, cakes, whatever the heck these are. They're beautiful, they're colorful. I feel like this resonates with my soul a lot. And I started just with the idea of making a prayer shawl, and then I turned it into a blanket. So where I'm at now is I have 1 huge triangle, 2 huge triangles, 3 huge triangles, and a 4th one on the way, and then some edging, and then I have another blanket. Unfortunately, this is the only blanket I feel compelled to finish. I feel very connected to it, and I do not really want to work on anything else until I get this done. But then I feel like I'm noticing a pattern here, and that being that I don't, it's not that I don't follow through, it's that sometimes I overstretch myself when I'm thinking of projects, which is why that temperature afghan, I look over and I'm like, ugh, I don't want to work on it. And I think that's because I took a simple concept, which was making triangles, and I wanted to do it as a time killer project, not as something that I was passionate about. Or, well, I'm passionate about making things. I'm passionate about the weather. I'm passionate about science, but I don't feel connected to it as I do this bright rainbow monstrosity that I'm working on. So that being said, I am almost done with the first skein of Triangle 4. I'm going to be going into the second skein of Triangle 4, and I have some yarn for edging, and I'm going to have a big, fluffy, lightweight, colorful blanket for my bed. And then the more I look at it and the more I think about it, I want to just rip that blanket apart and do something else. And that hurts me to think that way. But I'm not even halfway through the data that I compiled, which see the previous video about that. And I think I would have to do 2019 and 2020 to get the blanket I'm looking for. The more I look at it, it just makes me mad that I put so much time and effort into this, and I'm not going to be keeping it this way. It's sad. It's really sad when you're working on a project and then you decide that halfway through it's not worth it because it's already been an investment. There's probably $30 of materials invested in that project already, and I just think I have to readjust my approach to it. Which might be a little difficult. But I've also thought maybe instead of just ripping it apart and just tossing it, doing a bunch of breaking it down by like week and doing 4 squares instead of doing granny triangles, changing it to granny squares. And that way each month has about 4 squares on the blanket, and that would be a little bit easier to manage than it would be to, say, give every single day a different colored triangle. I need to stop looking at it. It's distracting me. So maybe this video wasn't completely about the Mandala Project. Maybe this is actually a video about not being like upset that plans change or that projects have to change. You should try to be flexible with projects. If you're not feeling it, you can always put it to the side and wait until the time is right, or you could take it apart and try again. It doesn't hurt to always try again. I think I've had 2 vastly important learning experiences with several aspects of these blankets, kind of like seams where I've joined these triangles. They're nice and smooth. They're like not tight, but you can't feel them when you run over them. On the other hand, if we look at this blanket, obvious seams, there's unnecessary texture. So I think I've learned a lot, and it's always good to learn as you go, which is one of those things that I've always been fairly pleased with myself with, that I can adapt or modulate on the fly. Okay, so we're going to stop talking about that. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. You can leave a comment down below. You can like me on Facebook and Instagram. You can also find me